Did you know that over the last 3 seasons, there have been 105 wide receivers with 100 or more targets? George Pickens ranks 11th out of those 105 wide receivers in yards per target. CeeDee Lamb's 31st. George Pickens is 7th in yards per catch. Lamb is 62nd in yards per catch. George Pickens ranks 14th in explosive play rate. Lamb is 47th. George Pickens is better than CeeDee Lamb, everyone. Unless you look at yards per route run rate, that's terrible. And target per route run rate also favoring CeeDee Lamb. He is elite in those two. But George Pickens has been a very efficient wide receiver when he catches the ball over the last 3 seasons, which is his entire career. Now he is on the Dallas Cowboys as the Cowboys acquire Pickens and a 6th-round pick in 2027 for a 3rd-round pick and a 5th-round pick. 3rd-round pick next year, 5th-round pick in 2027. Welcome, everybody. Heath, who's the biggest winner in this trade?
The guy who moved up the most in my rankings was DK Metcalf. I had a little bit of uncertainty about how big the split would be between Metcalf and Pickens in terms of targets. We've talked about this a lot. They're very similar players. And now Metcalf is the clear alpha number 1 on that team. So he's still a number 3 wide receiver for me, but he's more of a high end than a low end.
Who's got a hot take about this situation? By the way, coming up on today's show, Fantasy Cops. Got 4 Fantasy Cops emails.
Is one of them about a dynasty rookie draft where the commissioner cannot get the draft order correct?
I think so.
Okay.
We got 3 Fantasy Cops emails. I think so. We got that. We've got who has more Fantasy Feud and name that player. So it's game show day today. I was not expecting this George Pickens news. It was supposed to be just game shows and Fantasy Cops. So that's coming up. So stay tuned for that. All right, who's got a hot take about this George Pickens to the Cowboys trade?
Dak Prescott's QB6.
What?
Whoa, really?
No, but you want to sound spicy, right? He's QB8.
Look. He's been what? He's been top 4 per game in 3 of the last 6 seasons. You got him at QB8?
Yep.
Wow.
That's a pretty hot take.
I'll have to adjust my sleepers article. It's coming out later today at cbssports.com because I was just using our consensus rankings, and it sounds like Jamie might move Dak up enough to where he's not ranked low enough in the consensus rankings to be a sleeper. Thanks for that, Jamie. I got kind of skewered on Twitter this morning for saying that I really am not excited about any sort of upgrade for George Pickens, and everybody seems to think because he's going to a much better quarterback and a much better offense, he's going to be better, and I still think he's a number 4 wide receiver.
Wow. Dave, a hot take?
I've got DK as a borderline number 2, number 3 wide receiver in full PPR because I think he can pick up the 7.4 targets per game that we saw from Pickens last year. And he got off to a great start last year in Seattle with Geno. He got hurt, and that's when his numbers hit the toilet. I think that he's okay to take. There's really this range of receivers. Honestly, the range is like way higher than 24th among wide receivers, but somewhere between like 24 and 40, all those guys kind of feel the same. They all might be separated in Heath's rankings by like a PPR point per game. Just I'm guessing. I don't know Heath's projections, so I don't know, but I think he's a winner. I think Freiermuth is a winner because now you can draft him to be your tight end to start the season, and he'll cost you next to nothing. And I moved Dak up. I didn't move Dak into my top 10, but I mean, I got to hear more about that. Like, how is Dak a top 10 quarterback? I guess it makes sense a little bit because Pickens just going there and like he already had Lamb. He was going to make good numbers with Lamb, but maybe you're just figuring that Pickens is just such a huge upgrade that it's going to push his numbers sky high.
Well, for the last 6 years, he's been 24 points or better. So there's already enough of a track record to say he can get to that again. And he did that 2 years ago with CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks as his top receivers. Obviously, Lamb was astronomical, but I think you're looking at, what Pickens brings as, he's not a 1A in this scenario, but he's a pretty good 2, and you look at what he was able to accomplish last year with the best quarterback he's played with is 35-year-old Russell Wilson, 36. What was Russell Wilson last year? Like, he's had such miserable quarterback play. I think he's a huge winner in this because, you go to a situation just comparing the situations. Forget about a year ago to this year. Just comparing the situations that he's leaving. He's leaving maybe Aaron Rodgers, right? We're hoping it's Aaron Rodgers, obviously.
Right, that's the best case scenario.
But he's leaving Aaron Rodgers as the second guy there in almost a duplicate situation because him and DK Metcalf were going to do a lot of the same type of things. Now he's going where he's not expected to be the leader of the receiving corps, not going to lead the team in target, should play off of CD Lamb with, I think, the best quarterback of his career, assuming that Dak Prescott at 32, coming off a major hamstring injury, is going to be fine. But all the stuff that you hear is he's going to be fine. And so I'm counting on Dak's history, which has been through 2 different head coaches and a couple different office coordinators that he's produced at that level. I think he's got a good opportunity here to bounce back in a big way. This might be the best receiving core he's ever had. So with Ferguson as the third guy and no run game. And this offensive line was good last year. And look, Zach Martin obviously is a big loss, but I think the Zach Martin that they're losing and what they're replacing him with is better. So offensive line was top 10 in PFF rankings, I believe, Adam, if I'm not mistaken. That's what I saw this morning. In pass blocking from a year ago. So, getting better. I don't know. It feels like a great situation.
Cowboys, you said? Or the Steelers?
Cowboys. I'm sorry if I said Steelers.
No.
And I just want
to in pass blocking. I had made a note of that because Dak took a lot of sacks last year, and they struggled, according to PFF. They struggled in pass protection. Go ahead.
Okay,
Heath.
maybe I saw something different than
I agree completely about the Dak as a top 10 quarterback. I think I had him 10th before this. He's in a tier. I don't know how much I'm actually going to move him up, but he's in a tier with the guys basically from 6 through 10. I think you could make a reasonable argument for ranking him as high as 6.
Yep.
But the thing that concerns me about Pickens, just getting back to that, because it is the best quarterback he's ever played with, I think for sure. The pie is bigger in Dallas. They're going to throw for a lot more yards. They're going to throw a lot more times, even if that comes down a little bit with Brian Schottenheimer in charge of everything and a first-time OC. But CeeDee Lamb has been a guy that earns 10, 11 targets per game. DK Metcalf hasn't been that guy. Like, it's at least 3 targets per game more for Lamb for me than I would have for Metcalf. So I think that maybe the catch rate or efficiency goes up for Pickens. I'm not sure there is a big target boost as the number 2 behind CeeDee Lamb.
I don't disagree with that. I don't think there's a huge target boost, but I think, like you said, the pie is bigger. The quarterback is better. The coverage is going to be better for him, because he's not facing everybody's number 1. You look what he did in that stretch with Russell Wilson, who was, again, the most capable guy that he's ever caught passes from. And 4 of those first 6 games were arguably the 4 best games of his career from that stretch. So just looking at his production over that time and what he's hopefully able to do here, look, he's got to keep his head on, right? That's a big part of this too. Is he going to be happy if he's not getting enough targets? And, this is one of those situations where it's hard to judge vacated targets because the number 2 receiver for them last year was Brandon Cooks at 31 years old, in a situation where Dak missed 9 games. So that's 54 targets. I don't think that's what he's getting. I think he's getting obviously a lot more than that. I don't know. It feels like a great scenario for Pickens to walk in a contract year to a team that may be terrible running the ball. And that's if they get a Dobbins or a Chubb. Like this is not going to be a run-based Dallas team like we're used to seeing from years past. Like this is going to be Dak Prescott's offense and throw the ball a lot. And so, yes, CeeDee Lamb, I don't think he loses by any stretch in this, scenario. Like if you're debating him versus Jefferson, that was a tough call for me prior to this. So I had Lamb 2. Now he's 3. Jefferson's 2. I don't know. It feels like a great spot for Pickens considering where he's leaving. And I think it's great for Dak Prescott just given what he's got in front of him right now.
Well, over the last 3 seasons, that's really when CeeDee Lamb broke out for Dallas. The number 2 target getter has been Dalton Schultz at 89, Jake Ferguson at 102, and Ferguson again at 86. So it's been the tight end all 3 years, somewhere between 82 and 102 targets. We need more than that from George Pickens, obviously. We're hopeful of that.
And I think another thing is like George Pickens is his places of being targeted is nowhere similar to the tight ends. So I don't really like it's that you don't target those guys in the same part of the field or in the same situations. So I don't know. That the hardest part for me is it's hard to get Pickens to it. Like a 20% target share in Dallas would be great. That's about where I had him in Pittsburgh. I think he's in the teens because I don't take anything away from Ferguson because Pickens is there.
Oh, I would hope so. Honestly, I mean,
You're just going to take some of those tight end dumps and turn them into Hail Marys.
Just to be fair,
well,
also
his ADOT's like 13 yards. He's not an 18-yard Hail Mary guy. And last year, he was the only wide receiver in the league, if maybe the only player in the league, that had 6 or more green zone targets inside the 10-yard line and did not have a single catch. So this guy, even when he was targeted in the end zone, they never were able to connect. Green zone.
Can you look this up just from 2023? Because Brandon Cooks in a healthy Dak Prescott season had 8 touchdowns 2023 as the number 2 receiver for Dallas. Like,
yeah,
if that's a neighborhood that Pickens can live in with what he should be able to do on top of that, could be great.
And just the amount of touchdowns that have been, the difference in touchdowns over the last 3 years between Dallas and Pittsburgh.
Staggering.
It's insane. Yeah. Last year it was only like 2 or 3, but Dak has also missed 14 games over those last 3 seasons, all of them in 2022 and 2024. I don't know. I mean, I just looked at it like, man, the Cowboys have before this morning, a pretty bad offense around. I mean, the line might be fine, but like pretty boring offense. Like they just don't have great skills. They have CeeDee Lamb and like nothing else to write home about. They just got a really talented player. I think it's pretty exciting. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how it translates to fantasy. We'll have to see how that shakes out, but I think it's exciting. I think it's great for Dak. I think it's great. I think it's good for Pickens. I mean, Heath obviously disagrees. I think it at least gives him a shot to be something fun. Whereas in Pittsburgh, if he'd second fiddle to DK Metcalf in Pittsburgh, I don't know what we're getting from
Correct.
Pickens.
Yeah, it was awful.
And I think it's great for DK Metcalf. If he gets Aaron Rodgers, here's my hot take. If DK Metcalf gets Aaron Rodgers, he's going to be worth a 3rd round pick. He's going to have the 2nd best season of his career.
And
Aaron Rodgers,
you'll never draft him in round. You'll always get him after that.
Aaron Rodgers does one thing consistently. He finds his favorite receiver and targets the hell out of him. Garrett Wilson was on pace for 190 targets in the first 6 games. Devontae Adams was on pace for 174 targets in the last 11 games. And the first 6 games of the season, Garrett Wilson was 1st or 2nd in the NFL in red zone and green zone targets, maybe 3rd. And then it was the same exact thing for Devontae Adams in the last 11. He has a great history of focusing on one guy all over the field, including and especially near the end zone. So I am excited if Aaron Rodgers goes to the Steelers. I know it won't be a super pass-heavy offense, but I am excited for everyone with this trade. I think this is a great trade for fantasy.
Not for Ferguson.
Forget him. But yeah, but I'm excited. Heath, pour cold water on me. Go ahead.
There's a difference between Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams and DK Metcalf. Those guys, like Devontae Adams, has a decade history of getting 10 targets per game.
Allen Lazard and Christian Watson.
Garrett Wilson had 9.9 targets per game before Aaron Rodgers got there. DK's never been that guy.
Garrett Wilson was never that guy either.
No, Garrett Wilson had 168 targets the year before Aaron Rodgers got there. Or I'm sorry, Aaron Rodgers was there. He was on injured reserve the entire
time. It was obviously in his influence. I stand corrected then.
And I've projected Metcalf, I think, for the highest target share of his career. But they're probably going to throw 480 passes.
Yeah.
And so what's the target share you gave him on 480 passes?
25%.
Okay, so that's still 120. That's still not bad, and I'll take the over on that. I don't think it's going to be 150. I think I
got him at 125, and then the other thing is, like, Aaron Rodgers has not been good for 3 years. He's averaged the same yards per attempt since the start of the 22 season as Mason Rudolph. Like, actually worse. They were the same last year. This is the worst quarterback DK Metcalf has ever gone into a season with, regardless of whether Aaron Rodgers signs with the Steelers or not.
It's the only time he's been the clear alpha number 1, though, right? He's always had a running mate and a good running mate. So, look, obviously it's better for him than it was yesterday, right? I mean,
I moved him up.
not as high as I'm willing to move him up.
And Dave was 100% hit the nail on the head. From wide receiver 24 to wide receiver 40, there is a 1 point per game difference in my projections.
That's
okay.
So-
Dave and Jamie, where are you guys putting DK Metcalf?
I put Metcalf. He was like 36. I moved him up about 10 spots, and I put Pickens right behind him.
DK's 24th for me. Moved him ahead of Cortland Sutton, Travis Hunter, Chris Godwin, Jamison Williams. It does feel like I'm ranking him pretty close to his ceiling at 24. So
But
that's where he's
Arthur
at
Smith,
right now. And I moved Pickens down literally yesterday. And I'm not sure how much he'll move up. He'll be at best a low end number 3 receiver.
Arthur Smith in 6 seasons has had one top 20 wide receiver. And he's had A.J. Brown and prime Calvin Ridley, who played 5 games, but was really good. And Drake London and George Pickens. DK Metcalf has had one top 20 season in 6 seasons.
To be fair, Arthur Smith also had Ryan Tannehill and Matt Ryan at the end of his career, and
he's hoping desperately they could sign the same guy.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying, like, it's not like he's had the greatest of quarterbacks. I think you're going to either come out on this with your feelings on Metcalf, either if you're buying what Adam is selling, that this is a Rodgers favorite guy and he's going to do what he does with all of his favorite guys. He's also been in situations where the offense coordinator has been someone he's controlled. We'll see if that's the case in this situation, if he's going to be controlling Arthur Smith or Arthur Smith is going to be controlling him. I would assume with Mike Tomlin there, it's going to be a, you're running what we want to run. Not that they're going to bench him, but that's probably a little bit more of a controlling situation from the coach and coordinator as comparatively to what Rodgers has been used to. It's going to be a fascinating thing. I think taking him in round 3 is a huge mistake.
Oh no, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. I
think if you're getting him, like, for me, round 5 is the sweet spot for Metcalf, and Pickens is like round 6 at the earliest.
No, I think that taking him in round 3 would be drafting Metcalf at his ceiling. I think he could return that value though, and I didn't give him really any chance of doing that before this trade. But he'd be someone that I would be looking to target in late round 4. If not a little earlier. Like I think right when between him and Devontae Smith would be a tough call for me.
It's funny because yesterday we're in the middle of the dynasty league that Heath runs, the rookie draft, and I was actually offered Metcalf for pick 110, which I turned down because I had other needs. I took Caleb Johnson in that spot. Prior to getting I don't know if I was on the clock yet or not, but it was going to be debating Matthew Golden versus George Pickens, because that's the way I thought the draft was going to go. And just based on how my team is, I have a little buyer's remorse now, just knowing that Metcalf's situation improved a lot.
Well, look, I got a comment here from the chat. It says, I think this makes Pickens a lock top 24 with potential to be the Waddle, Devontae Smith type of producer and get close to top 12.
You should draft Dak Prescott.
Yeah,
You should draft a lot of Dak Prescott.
I don't think we have it, but I think if people feel like he's a good receiver, that's going to be the number 2 on a very good offense, a very good passing offense, then I understand there are going to be a lot of different opinions on this. And the question is, like, how good is George Pickens? I gave you all those per route things, but he has never been a guy that has shown he can consistently be good. He can have a really good 5-game stretch, but he's mercurial. He's got I don't want to say off the field, but he's got some mental hurdles that he has to overcome. And also Dak Prescott had some worrying signs last year. He stopped running and he took a lot of sacks and he's coming off a hamstring injury. So he's 32. Is he slowing down? There's so much to this. And I honestly think we could do about an hour on it.